So we all know that Warren Buffett is probably the world's most famous and successful investor of all time because he doesn't invest in super risky stuff like Bitcoin. But I do think that Bitcoin is like digital gold, so I digress. But if you wanted to invest like Warren Buffett himself, he's got 3 stocks that make up 63% of his investable assets, with Apple being the leader of $157 billion, nearly a billion shares he owns of Apple. And if I look at Apple's dividend, it is 0.24 per share per quarter. So that is going to be almost $1 every year. So if we look at how much he has $157 billion with nearly $1 billion in actual shares. So he's going to make $915 a year off of just owning $157 billion worth of Apple. That is just sheer astonishing. And I agree with this. Not that I'm to say that I'm much smarter than Warren Buffett, because that is definitely a no-no. Apple's my largest position holder in the stocks that I own. That's not my crypto portfolio. And it's got a lot to do with everyone has their Apple phones, and I love them. Their iPhones, their watches, they're in fitness, they're in music, they're in freaking everything. And now they're going to start fighting Tesla for vehicles, for technology boosted vehicles. And they're buying big players for solid state batteries so that they can have that kind of tech. They're freaking all over the place. Apple's definitely not going anywhere. Warren Buffett, his strategy is much around, hey, I want to invest in something that's going to be around for the next 50 to 100 years. I don't want the majority of my positions in something that could go belly up instantly. I want something that can withstand a massive inflation hike or what's going on right now with interest rates, with us being in, lack of a better term, a recession, even though our government has decided to rename the term recession. It's silly. Next is Bank of America. He's got $28.3 billion. So nearly 10% of their investable assets in a giant bank. I'm surprised it's not Chase, because Chase is the most popular. But what's interesting here is they now have 12.9%. And typically you weren't allowed for any one person to own more than 10% of one of the big central banks. And the Federal Reserve approves Berkshire Hathaway in 2020 to have up to a quarter of owning Bank of America, which is indeed astonishing. So if you look at the current dividend of Bank of America, he owns about 28 billion shares and he's getting paid 3.2%. So $28 billion worth of shares, excuse me. So we're just going to do simple math, which is relatively pretty easy. So 28 times 0.0132, which means he's going to have $873 million at the end of the year from his investable shares. And last but not least, he is big in Coca-Cola. Again, something that's going to be around forever. So he's got $25.3 billion in there, which I agree with. If you've got that much money, you can invest it in something. So this is 3.2. So it's relatively the same, where he's going to make close to another billion. It's probably going to be more around $800 million is what he'd make on his 25. So he's got 25 billion and it's 3.2. So it's $800 million he's going to make every year. So he's making damn near $3 billion off of 60% of his portfolio every year, just being in Apple, Bank of America, and Coca-Cola. This is why it's so important to have dividend-paying stocks in a portfolio. Apple is sort of still a growth stock because they're into different emerging markets. Now they're in music, they're in fitness, they are in telecommunications, and now they're getting into the automotive industry. So they're still paying a dividend. However, they're moving into different things. You don't see Coca-Cola all of a sudden moving into buying cars, right? But I like what he's doing here, and I hope this helps to have some of the stuff that you guys want to invest in as well. See what the big wigs are doing and go from there. I've got a big philosophy on life stocks where if you use it, you should invest in it. Hence, I use my iPhone and stuff every day. Therefore, I own quite a bit of it. I've got a Toyota truck. Therefore, I own quite a bit of Toyota stock. I love Garmin for all my cycling computer stuff and my fitness. So I own Garmin stock. That's just the way I invest. But this is Johnny Crypto. I'm here to help you make some money.